Welcome back to the Blackhawks Conversation Show. My name is Ryan McGregor. We have a lot to talk about on this one. A lot has gone down lately. Everything from the Nazar injury, what him and Bedard being out means for this team, Teuvo Teravainen's issues, Artem Levshinov's issues, the whole Soderblom, Brossoit thing going on here, and Matt Grzelcyk was fined. So we got a lot to get into on this episode. But before we do, if you weren't aware, Blackhawks Conversation is now available on Apple Podcasts, so be sure to go check it out over there, leave a review, all that good stuff. If you'd rather listen to the audio version, on your commute to work or really anywhere, that's the place to do it. So yeah, I did my post game yesterday after the Ottawa game, and I did my post game as soon as the game ended, so I didn't know what the diagnosis on Frank Nazar was. Um, Come to find out now, of course, he's out about 4 weeks, according to Jeff Blashill. So he's out for a while. Him and Bedard both out for a while. Gonna miss some time. So, you know, the most pressing topic now, of course, is what does this mean for the Hawks? Uh, you know, and there's two ways to go about this here. What does this mean for the lines, which we'll get into? I've kind of put together my own lines of what I think they should look like. And also just what this means for the goal of the season, because before those two got injured, um, the Hawks were in a wild card race. They were in it. They've been in it all year. And of course now, both your top centers go down and even before that, not playing the best hockey and kind of falling back down to earth. So, you know, I think it's pretty clear that um the push for the playoffs is over. I mean, there's not really any other conclusion to come to other than the push for the playoffs is over. The Hawks do now sit last in the NHL. That's how close the standings are this year. Is the Hawks do now sit last in the NHL. So, this is another year where we're going to get a high draft pick, going to add another great prospect to the pool, and march forward. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, we all got really excited with how this team was playing to start the year, and we all immediately saw playoffs as a possibility. Um, but obviously that's not the case, and that's okay because this year so far has been perfect step forward. I mean, you have Bedard breaking out. That's the most important thing. It was a Bedard breakout year. He's showing that he can be that generational player that we thought he was, and so that's the most important thing. And then you have, I mean, Frank Nazar did have that slump, but other than that, he's looked really good. We're seeing development from Levshinov. We're seeing, Louis Crevier really break out into a guy you can't take out of the lineup. Wyatt Kaiser's developing his game. Sam Rizell had a rough year, but he's still making. That's just part of the development. He's making those strides forward, and he's getting through those developmental challenges. Spencer Knight is showing he can be a starting goalie. So there's a lot of positives to take out of this year. And if you can, get a lot of solid development out of the season and get a top three pick and add one of either McKenna, Stenberg, or Belchetz. I mean, Verhoff's in there too. And if he's available and he's the best player available, you take him. But Hawks obviously don't need another defenseman. Um, so I'm not too down. I mean, it's rough, obviously you're going to be down for a bit when for 2 months you're thinking, oh my God, our playoffs actually a possibility here. And then, within 2, 3 weeks, that all comes crashing down. It's obviously a little bit disappointing. Um, but, you know, we're on pace and for what we expected and coming into the year and things are still looking good. They still have a bright future and next year is going to be fun. Um, But yeah, let's get into kind of. I want to talk about. I put together some lines here of what I think the Blackhawks should roll with while Nazar and Bedard are out. And this kind of, does depend on, when Foligno's ready, and if he's not ready, you might have Toninato in there. So let's start with the forwards. Now, the number one center spot is obviously like the pressing issue here because your top two centers are out. And I thought about Ryan Green, but you don't want to give a 20-year-old or 21-year-old, sorry, 22-year-old, um, maybe that number one that number one center spot, a guy like Ryan Green. So my thought is for the first line, you roll with Bertuzzi, Donato, Burakovsky. Um, Second line, I liked that kid line. I think you keep it together as your second line with Lardis, Green, Moore. That's an exciting line. And then you go Teravainen and Dickinson, Mikheyev for the third line. And if he's back, Foligno, Doc Lafferty. If he's not back, Toninato, Doc Lafferty. I think it's pretty straightforward when it comes to the forwards. But Teravainen, I don't want to see in the top six until he starts playing better and until he starts, playing like he gives a shit. I don't want him in the top six. I think every other guy there in terms of Bertuzzi, Donato, Burakovsky, Lardis, Green, and more, they all deserve top 6 minutes more than he does. Even Ilya Mikheyev. I think Mikheyev deserves top 6 minutes, but I just couldn't really find a spot for him. Because I do want, if it were up to me, I would have the kid line as the second line. Yes, that's kind of what I would roll with. Um, but yeah, Teravainen's been a really disappointing this month. Just to put it into perspective, he's played 9 games in December, 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, a -10. Now, to his credit, the team, or not to his credit, but to his defense a little bit, the team has not been playing well. But that stat line is terrible. And the numbers aren't even everything. It's not like he's doing things right and the numbers just aren't there. I mean, you've watched the games. I assume if you're listening to the show, I assume you've watched the games. He's been awful. So I don't want him in the top six. I'd give the kid line a shot on that second line. And then you kind of have some speed to put around Jason Dickinson. So, that's what I would do on the forward core. Now, when it comes to the D core, you have some options here. What I would run, this is what I would run, at least for next game. Vlasic, Crevier, Kaiser, Murphy, Grzelcyk, Dalmastro. I would sit Levshinov. Levshinov's another guy that hasn't looked great. And if you've set the precedent with Sam Rinzel of if you don't play well, you don't play, and if you're a young guy, you go back to the AHL for your development. If they did that to Rinzel, why don't they do that to Levshinov? And that works out in the sense that I want to see Kevin Korchinski up here. I've said it for a while now. Because, if you send Levshinov down, you don't have a power play guy. And even with Levshinov up here, he's only quarterbacking power play 2. Grzelcyk is quarterbacking power play 1. So if you bring Korchinski up here, if you bring Korchinski up in general, you want to bring him up for offense. That's his game. He's an offensive defenseman, so you want him to be able to get that power play time. And the issue earlier in the year was like, well, you can't bring him up because you already have Rinzel, an offensive defenseman, quarterbacking power play 1. You have Levshinov, an offensive defenseman, quarterbacking power play 2. What's the point of bringing up Korchinski? Well, now neither of those guys, one of them isn't even here. The other one probably shouldn't be here. It definitely shouldn't be quarterbacking first power play. So now's the time to bring Korchinski up, in my opinion. But if they don't, I scratch Levshinov next game, and I roll with the pairings that I just said. So you have some options there on the back end. Um, and where you have even more options is in net. So obviously Spencer Knight has been great. Nothing to report on Spencer Knight. He's our starting goaltender. Everything's fine there. It's the backup position. It's Arvid Soderblom that everyone's been upset with, and rightly so. Arvid Soderblom has not been very good. He has a 4.04 goals against and an 8.73 save percentage, and he's 3.7-1. Again, like the Tavo situation, the team in front of him has not been good. That Ottawa game, 6 goals against, not all of them were his fault, but you want him to make a big save. You want him to make those saves sometimes to bail you out. When your young decor makes mistakes, um, you want to be bailed out. And he just doesn't do that. And he doesn't even make the saves that the league average saves, you know? I believe the expected goals for the Senators last game was a 4 something. I think he had about 2 he was about a -2 in goals saved above expected. Um So, fans are calling for Soderblom's head here. And why not? Why not bring up Laurent Brossoit? He's got a 3.29 goals against and a 909 save percentage in 4 games. He's 3-1-0 in Rockford, and he has a goal on top of that. That doesn't mean much, but it's cool to mention. He has a goal. Um, why not bring up Laurent Brossoit? Even if he plays average, one, that's better than Soderblom. And two, you're increasing his trade value. And isn't that the goal at the end of the day? To give him the opportunity to play in the NHL again, whether that's a trade or for the Hawks. So that seems like a move I would like to explore. Since so even if I said it in my post game, even if it's just for a mental reset for Soderblom, if that's what he needs is a mental reset, that's perfect. That's fine. Bring Soderblom up, give him the shot. Why not? Yeah, so that's kind of my take on the lines and sort of what these two injuries might mean for the lines here. Um, and with the loss, with going 0-3 on the Canadian road trip, the Blackhawks are now dead last in the NHL. That kind of ties into what I was saying earlier. So, you know, now instead of having our eyes on the playoffs, we're going to start having our eyes on the draft, which is fine. Um, I've always been, all year, I've been a big fan of Stenberg. Big Ivar Stenberg guy. Um, here, there's ups and downs with McKenna this year. There's a lot of talk of him maybe not going first overall. And I'm not going to sit here and say I don't want Gavin McKenna because I don't think he's good. I don't want Gavin McKenna because I don't think we need more small skill players. I don't even know how small. He might not even be that small. I don't know his height off the top of my head. But he's another skill guy, pure skill guy, and I don't think we need that. I want a guy like Ivar Stenberg, Ethan Belchetz. I would love a guy like Belchetz. I want a bigger guy who can use the body, who also does have some skill. So I'm on team Stenberg and Belchetz, probably Stenberg first, but that's kind of where my mind is at. No, don't get me wrong. If the Hawks get Gavin McKenna, I'm not going to bitch and complain about it. I'm going to be happy it's Gavin McKenna. And the same can be said for Keaton Verhoff. If they draft another defenseman, I'll be unhappy with the fact that they've drafted another defenseman, but I'll be happy in the sense that we just got Keaton Verhoff. So, obviously we'll get more into draft talks as the year progresses, as the year ends, and we starting to get into the summer, we start to get into the combine and things like that. But yeah, as of right now, I'm a big Stenberg and Belchetz fan, and I would personally avoid Gavin McKenna. Brutal moment in the World Juniors yesterday in the preliminary, the own goal against Sweden. Man, that was a tough look. Feel really bad for the kid. But hopefully he can bounce back from that and play well for Canada. He's got the skill. He's a good player. He's a really good player. And there's a lot of people talking shit about him this year. And there's some good reasons for it. But at the end of the day, this kid is going to be really good. He's going to be a great player, and I'd be happy with him, although he wouldn't be my first choice. Moving on, Matt Grzelcyk was fined $2,600 for his cross check on Tim Stützle. Um, Cross check to the chin, to the bottom lip, lower jaw there. Um, it didn't look intentional. I'm not upset with the fine. At the end of the day, I'm happy it's not a suspension. I like the way Grizzlies been playing. Uh, I'm not upset with the fine. I mean, it was fine worthy. He cross checked him in the face. It didn't look intentional, but intention doesn't matter. He cross checked him in the face. He's going to get fined. So to me, I don't really have a huge problem with it. Um, it is what it is. The guy's a millionaire. He can pay $2,600, the max fine, uh, allowable under the CBA. So yeah, lots of stuff happening with the Hawks right now. This was a quick episode. I just quickly wanted to touch on um, some of these prominent topics here. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. If you're not listening on Apple Podcasts, be sure to go over there, follow the show there, listen over there, and I will see you in the next post game.